Good evening, meteorologist Mike Linden coming at you live from the MyRadar studio in Orlando, Florida. It has been a long day. Severe weather rolls on through the southern United States. You can follow our social media handles. They're up. They were above my head there. Right there. Now they're down below. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We are everywhere. But let's jump right in to the big news of the day. The first high-risk severe weather day for the month of March since the year 2012. To be specific, March 2nd, 2012 was the last time that we saw that pink color on a map in the month of March in 9 years. But the Storm Prediction Center, the Navy SEALs of severe weather, were way ahead of this, issuing that high risk overnight as we worked our way into today. But let's take a look here at the graphics. You can see that that risk area has shrunk a little bit. In fact, let me grab my little pointer tool here and I'll show you exactly the region I'm talking about. Right here in Arkansas, that was covered in high risk, but that has since been pulled back. Otherwise, this polygon still is about the same size, including this little portion of Louisiana there. And even though the main line of storms is now pushing eastward, this is still definitely the bullseye through the next couple of hours and potentially through the overnight hours where we might see additional thunderstorm development. Now, we also have this moderate risk, that is this red color here, encompassing a humongous area. And then, of course, it gets larger from there. Enhanced risk, slight risk, marginal risk. But this high risk here, a 5 out of 5, that is the top of the scale, literally cannot go any higher from the Storm Prediction Center. And in terms of what things are looking like, let me pull up the MyRadar app here. I've just got to grab the iPad here that we have set up in the studio, and we can take a look at the current watches and warnings that are currently out for the southern United States. Should be good to go there, Matt, if you want to take the app in full. Perfect. So anywhere where you see these red boxes, and there are numerous red boxes. In fact, here, just for a moment, I'm going to turn the radar off. It's a mess, really. I mean, it has been an active day across the southern United States. And as these storms continue to flow in from the west and the southwest, it continues to be an incredibly sheared environment that is ripe for thunderstorm development and, of course, potentially leading to tornadoes. Now, if I turn on the watches, you can still see in this yellow box here, there is a tornado watch that is in effect for the next 7, almost 8 hours. So, folks, for people that live in Alabama, colored in by that yellow box there, like I mentioned, you are in it for the long haul. That is going to continue through the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning. So a long night for the folks that live in Alabama, Mississippi, right there along the southern tier of the United States. Now, MyRadar storm chaser Aaron Jajak, the hardest working man in storm chasing, has been out since the sun came up, if not before, early this morning. And he shot this video in Jemison, Alabama, not too long ago. There you can see the funnel cloud this has pretty much been the story of the day across Alabama. It has just been funnel clouds on funnel clouds on funnel clouds. Of course, the big difference between a funnel cloud and a tornado, one touches the ground, the other does not. A humongous distinction between the two. But Aaron is literally still driving around Mississippi and Alabama. Right now, it is set to be a long night for Aaron and for all of us as we continue to track these severe storms. Now, we're going to take a look at some live cameras courtesy of our partners at WeatherStem. The first one up here, this is the Georgia Tech Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, these storms are working their way eastward right now through Mississippi and Alabama, but Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, you are up next. Right now, all is quiet over the football stadium. No one in the crowd there. Next, let's jump to Blue Ridge, Georgia. Once again, courtesy of our partners at WeatherStem. An absolutely beautiful looking site here, but again, likely to get very active here over the next several hours, and we are rapidly losing daylight too, so I'm glad that we got to show you these cameras. And finally, let's round things out in Clemson, South Carolina, again, kind of following these storms eastward. And this is the Clemson University Littlejohn Coliseum, Clemson, South Carolina. You can see the clouds there, and that kind of a good thing with a situation like this in the sense that the clouds are going to limit thunderstorm development, but keep in mind we have lost the sun, the real prime heating of the day, but this is an incredibly ripe atmosphere for thunderstorm development as well as potential tornado development over the next several hours. Now, before we get to the forecast, earlier this evening, the World Meteorological Organization kind of dropped a bombshell on the weather world, as it were, retiring 4 hurricanes. That being Dorian in 2019, Laura this year, Ada this year, and Iota this year. Now, that would be enough. 4 retired names. That's big. Then they decided to take it one step further. Remember the Greek alphabet that we went into this year? That will never happen again. Not to say that we won't have the number of storms that we had this past season, but in terms of using the Greek alphabet, you will never see that again from the World Meteorological Organization or from the National Hurricane Center for Atlantic-named storms. In fact, I have here from the World Meteorological Organization what their reasoning was. I thought it was rather interesting. They said there can be too much focus on the use of the Greek alphabet names and not the actual impacts from the storm. This can greatly detract from the needed impact and safety messaging. And it got a little confusing. Eta, Theta, Zeta, they kind of all sound the same, right? So getting rid of it entirely here in the midst of the first high-risk day from the month of March in over 9 years. And here we are talking about hurricane season, but big news in the weather world. I figured I would at least talk to you about that, considering how big a news it was. But Matt, let's jump back into the graphics here, and let's take a look at what the next several hours are going to pose for the folks that live along the southern tier of the United States here. And while we're doing that, I'm actually going to pull up the chat here on my computer next to me here. So if you guys have any questions for me, I actually have the chat for all of the social media channels that we are broadcasting to: YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, even twitch.tv/MyRadar. So if you want to ask me a question, get that question in here now. In fact, Chief Digital Meteorologist Leslie Hudson will be in at 11 o'clock this evening, Eastern time. So if you have any questions for Leslie, pop those in the chat as well, and we'll try to answer them as we get into the evening hours. But here, again, just one more time from the Storm Prediction Center, still dealing with this high risk. We are not done with this yet, and a lot of people are still at risk for those severe storms to develop. In fact, 2 million at high risk, 5 at moderate risk, 9 at enhanced, 12 at slight, and 13 at a marginal risk. That is a huge chunk of real estate. Mind you, it's St. Patrick's Day. I've literally forgotten to say that almost all day today. So happy St. Patrick's Day to the folks that are out there celebrating. But, we had the Easter tornado outbreak last year, and here we are, the holiday almost 1 year later, talking about yet another severe weather outbreak. It's really funny the way things work out, right? But looking at the MyRadar forecast, this is a surface map that is going to show us what we could expect as we head into tomorrow and into Friday. So I fast forwarded all the way to 5 o'clock in the morning, and notice at this time, still a pretty potent line of storms out ahead of that cold front, overlooking right now the Georgia area, pushing into that Blue Ridge, Georgia area of the northern portion of the state. But let's advance here. We'll work our way into Thursday afternoon, starting to lose a little bit of that oomph. Tomorrow's severe weather will be similar to today in the sense that it's all the same environment. This is the same front. That is not changing. But in terms of what we may see, it's just a step down from that high risk. Moderate risk is still, I don't want to use the word high, but 4 out of 5. I mean, that's high up there on the scale. And that is what tomorrow is for that southeastern coastline there. Again, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Might even see some severe weather up north, too. We'll revisit that in just a moment. But look at the time here, 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. At this point, that front finally leaving us. And then as we head into Friday, we can take a deep breath. Conditions look to improve a little bit. So here is the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow. This is that moderate risk area, that red color. Let me grab my pointer tool here. That goes into Georgia, covers almost all of South Carolina, as well as a good chunk of North Carolina, including Raleigh-Durham there. But notice that enhanced risk, that yellow or that orange color rather, covers the rest of South Carolina, almost all of Georgia, and even works its way into southern Virginia. Beyond that, Look at the yellow color here. This is the slight risk for severe weather. And just because that is a 2 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center scale doesn't mean that you aren't going to see severe weather. I mean, anything that we have talked about over the past day or so, we're talking widespread violent tornadoes, those are all possible anywhere on this map that you're seeing. So you really need to be prepared for anything and everything, really, when we are talking about an atmosphere such as this. But again, moderate risk in red, enhanced risk here in orange, slight risk in yellow, moderate risk in green. That is tomorrow's outlook. And in terms of what could be coming your way, this is the power outage forecast. And this is taking into account wind gusts above 45 miles per hour. And based on historical data, where we are likely to find power outages. So you see that hot spot there over the southeastern corner of the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth, I should say, of Virginia, even up and into Maryland and Delaware. And that is interesting because that is showing, at least the models are starting to trend to take this front and take the low a little bit farther to the north than what we saw over the past 24 to 48 hours. So for the people that live in Virginia, Washington, D.C., and potentially even up into New Jersey and Delaware, you could be looking at some strong winds and potentially some strong storms coming your way as well. Before we get to your questions, I have to review this. This is really important stuff. It might seem, for the folks that have dealt with tornadoes in the past, this might seem like really common sense stuff, but it is worth mentioning again. If you are to deal with a hurricane, or a tornado rather, coming your way, the best place for you and your loved ones to be is in the centermost portion of your home. You want to put as much wall in between you and the outside. Don't be so concerned about the north-facing wall, the south, east, west. That does not matter. You want to put, again, as much house in between you and the outside. Avoid windows, because if debris is to fly around and smash through that glass, even a small rock can smash the glass, and you don't want to be on the other side when that window is to break. Really, really dangerous. Now, when you are in that centermost location, cover yourself with a blanket. I know not everyone has a mattress laying around, I understand, but a blanket, potentially even a bicycle helmet. In a situation like a tornado, a bicycle helmet could save your life from potentially something hitting your head or your neck. So you might think it's silly, but it is a really great idea. Now, the best place for you to be is a basement. But I understand that not everyone has a basement. We're coming to you here from Orlando, Florida. I don't think anybody here in Florida has a basement because of how high the water table is and how at sea level the state is. But if you do not have a basement and your house has a strong foundation, we'll get to what that means in just a moment. You want to go again to that centermost location, whether that's a closet, a bathroom, no windows though, a bathroom, or a underneath a flight of stairs, like a crawl space. Now, what's really important to remember is that if you do live in a mobile home, the key word there is mobile. Mobile homes become mobile in a severe weather situation like this. I mean, strong winds could, let alone tip that over, but could loft it into the air. I mean, I shared a photo on our Facebook page earlier this evening of a boat that slammed into a tree in Alabama. A boat. That should be in the water, not up in the air. And that's a boat, mind you, let alone a mobile home that can easily be picked up. So if you do live in a mobile home, or if you know somebody that lives in a mobile home, just again, have that plan in place, know where to go, know where that safe place is, because lead time is the name of the game here, folks. I mean, we're talking minutes in some situations when a storm can become tornado warned to when a tornado potentially touches down to then when it shows up at your doorstep. So again, minutes are important in a situation like this. Matt, let's come back to the, I'm going to bring it up on this graphic here. I'm actually going to answer some questions from folks. I'm going to scroll up here in the chat. Thank you so much for rocking with us all day today. These are the days in which we are glad to be here for you. Now, we got a lot of comments here coming in. I'm so excited. Let me just move this over, and I'll move my computer over here. We're going to answer a couple of them. And remember, Chief Digital Meteorologist Leslie Hudson will be in later this evening. And we'll have those questions for you later. All right, so let's take a look here. We have Someone is asking, what is it supposed to look like in Ohio? Now, I take it you're talking about right now and into tomorrow. You guys are really far to the north of what we're presently dealing with. In fact, let me load up this graphic here, and we can take a look at the radar. In fact, rather, let's take the MyRadar app now. Let's do that instead. And I can show you what is going on right now in the state of Ohio. Mainly just some rain up in the Buckeye State, whereas most of the severe stuff is down south. So if you live in Ohio, you might be looking at some scattered showers overnight tonight, but really the severe stuff is well south of you. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you too, Sandy Rose. We've missed you. Dustin asking about Huntsville, Alabama. That is a great question. Matt, let's go back. Oh, you're on the radar. You're awesome. All right, and big shout out to Matt. Drop it in the chat. Matt and Damien, those are the guys behind the scenes. They edit the forecast videos. They are driving the show behind the scenes. They are the unsung heroes of the crew. So let them know that you appreciate them in the chat. So here again is the state of Alabama. And if we tap on the watch, you again see that tornado watch for Huntsville in effect through the overnight hours. So whoever was asking that question, Dustin, in terms of how bad it is supposed to get, I mean, you've been dealing with it since 1 o'clock this afternoon, and there actually is a tornado-warned storm just to the south and to the west of you there, or tornado watch, I should say. Definitely something to watch out for if you do live in Huntsville. What a day it has been. We've got Debbie asking about Lexington. I assume, Debbie, you are asking about Lexington, Kentucky. Oh, Lexington, South Carolina. Okay, the other Lexington. I lived in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm a member of the Big Blue Nation, so when I hear Lexington, I think Kentucky. But South Carolina, again, you are under, as we head into tomorrow, a moderate risk for severe weather encompassing almost the entire state of South Carolina. Matt, you're perfect. You want to take that in full. Mainly, we're looking at a high wind event tomorrow, potentially upwards of 70 miles per hour. But it is certainly possible with the history that this storm has provided, or at least what this whole system has brought with it. It has a history. Violent tornadoes have touched down. So that is something at least to keep in the back of your mind here as this front pushes eastward. But that really won't get going until we see the sun come up into tomorrow. But it is not impossible to see strong tornadoes at night. And perhaps those are the scariest really to deal with, because let alone the fact that they are difficult to see, but for people that are trying to look out for them, you can't see them. And if they're wrapped in rain, which a lot of these have been today, it's just a multiplier in that sense. Sky is asking, what is the tornado outbreak called? It doesn't necessarily have a name, although when you look back at it, it might very well go down as the St. Patrick's Day severe weather outbreak of 2021. It's kind of easy to call it that, considering that that's the holiday today. Alex asking how to use the correlation coefficient on a radar. That is a great question, Alex. I'm going to let Chief Digital Meteorologist Leslie Hudson talk about that later. She actually has a great video up on the MyRadar app. You can check it out in the video portal talking about correlation coefficient. So that is in there, but it is showing you something that is being lofted into the atmosphere. That is what that will show. And typically you use that when you are looking for what's called a debris ball. When a tornado is strong enough that it has picked up pieces of roofs, anything, and is spinning it, right? It has lofted it into the atmosphere, and that is what you're looking for with the correlation coefficient. Let's see what else we got here. We'll answer a few more. We've got someone watching in Georgia, a cabin in the woods. I think you DM'd us earlier today. You definitely, again, want to have that plan in place. If the cabin you're staying at has a basement, awesome, and be sure that you have your cell phone charged, your mobile device charged up in case you are to lose power. If you're out there in the mountains, it might be easy for you to lose power. So be sure that you have your mobile phones charged there, Brandon, as we head into tomorrow. We've got Tara asking how far north is the severe weather going to be in the next few days. There is that graphic. In fact, again, you can see, let me grab that pointer tool here. Stand by. Here we go. So this severe weather extends northward all the way into Kentucky and into Ohio and West Virginia. So things could get active for you into tomorrow. Remember, that is a slight risk, a 2 out of 5. So mainly we're looking at there is the potential for an isolated tornado, but more unlikely than not in that sense. If we are to see them, they'll be, again, with the way that this storm system has been, or this low pressure center, I should say, it has a history. So we don't want to rule anything out, but this is definitely going to be the area where we'll be watching for the greatest tornadic development into tomorrow, that being the southeastern coastline. We've got yet another person watching on Twitch, twitch.tv/MyRadarWX. We love it. Thanks, Vinyl, for the kind words. We appreciate it. We're going to answer a few more before we say goodbye. Matt, I think we've been talking now for what feels like 25, 30 minutes. I always love answering your questions, but of course we've got severe weather going on, so I've certainly got to get back to making sure that we don't miss anything, which nothing has snuck up on us just yet. And let's see what else we got here. We have Judy asking about North Carolina. Judy, you can see here on the graphic that North Carolina, at least a good chunk of it, is under that moderate risk, a 4 out of 5 for severe storms tomorrow, and that does include Raleigh-Durham there. Let me go back here to the surface map, Matt, and I am going to play this out one more time here so people can kind of get an idea of what to expect as we head into tomorrow. I'll advance things here as I talk. So this is the overnight into tomorrow morning and into lunchtime. Notice the model here maybe picking up on a slight little lull into tomorrow. That could be indicative of the clouds potentially limiting that tornadic development. You really want the clouds when this thing's coming your way heading into tomorrow. If you see the sunny skies, that is exactly what these storms want. They want to get nice and tall. They want to stretch out, kind of like when you get out of bed early in the morning. You just want to stretch out. That's what these storms want to do, get nice and mature, get nice and strong, and of course become severe. Let me keep advancing here. That front continuing to advance eastward, and there you can see bubbling up on the leading edge of that front there is a little cell that the model trying to pick up on here, but this is off the shore here. Still possible to put something down at this point, but look at the time here, 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. So we're talking, 24 hours from now. So that's kind of a look at what North Carolina is expecting into tomorrow. We'll answer one more here. And Jerry, that's a great question. Jerry's asking that, she says, hello from Little Rock, Arkansas. Are we in the clear yet? That is an excellent, excellent question. Let's jump to the MyRadar app here, Matt. And we are looking at what is going on right now. And again, I have the watches and the warnings turned on, which you can do in the MyRadar app by tapping on the layer button, going to watches warnings. You can customize it from here. I have the watches turned on. We'll leave those on, and then you just toggle it on the layer map right there. But right now, for the state of Arkansas, you have this tornado watch here for the Buffalo National River area there close to Mountain Home, or at least just to the west of it there, likely because of these few cells here passing by. But you're not in the clear just yet, even though there aren't any other tornado watches across the state, at least as far as I can tell. So that is good there. But what you really want to watch out for, watch how this flow comes in from the southwest right there near, is that Arkadelphia? What a cool name there. Arkadelphia. You can see those storms kind of firing up seemingly out of nothing. Matt here in my ear says it's always sunny in Arkadelphia. Maybe he can pitch that show next. But again, seeing the storms coming in from the southwest, you can see again bubbling up out of seemingly nothing, and it is going to be those storms to really watch out for that can have the most explosive growth. And you kind of see that here from these storms to the north of Little Rock, near where you are asking there. Notice how they kind of fire up out of seemingly nothing. That just speaks to how ripe this atmosphere is right now for that tornadic development. So I hope that answers your question, but that's probably going to do it for the questions for at least right now. Like I mentioned, Chief Digital Meteorologist Leslie Hudson will be in coming up at 11 o'clock this evening, or at least that's when we're going to try to get it to you. And at which point, Leslie will give you an update on what you can expect through the overnight hours as we work our way into Thursday. If you have any questions for the Chief, get them in now. Ask them in the comments, and we should be able to address them as we get into the 11 o'clock hour. You can see all of our social media handles above me here: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. If you are watching this on YouTube, click on that like button. We really, really would appreciate it. And of course, it really helps us out. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already. Once we hit 80,000 subscribers, by the way, we are giving away a cell phone. So help us get to that 80,000 subscriber mark, and one of you could be a lucky winner of the cell phone. You get to pick either an iPhone or a Google Pixel, so whichever one you want. Trying to think if there are any other housekeeping notes here, Matt. I don't think so. And oh, of course, click on that notification bell for YouTube. That way you always know whenever we post a new video or whenever we do something like this, whenever we go live. We've got so much exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. But for right now, it is all things severe weather. We have got you covered for the first high-risk day for the month of March in 9 years. For all of us here on the MyRadar team, for Matt and Damian behind the scenes, for Chief Digital Meteorologist Leslie Hudson, I have been Meteorologist Mike Linden. For everyone out there, I really hope that you stay dry and, of course, you stay safe. We'll catch you back here in the next one. See ya.
But it's absolutely necessary.